So, I just released my own short animation. The story is pretty simple. It's about the love between two ceramic figurines. I know I always create fan art on my channel, but my initial goal in animation was to tell my own stories through my original animation. And since I've been making 3D art for a long time now, I feel like I learned at least the basic of each part of the animation production process. So, about 3 months ago, I decided to create my own short animation. Whether it's good or not, I feel like I need to start. I'm not going to stop creating fan art, but from now on, I will also be working on my original animation. And I really hope you guys will like it. So here I am, creating my first short animation on my own. For the story, I have made three rules. First, it's gonna be a short story, at least 1 minute. I didn't want to overcomplicate myself for my first short animation, even though it ended up being 3 minutes. But it's alright since it's mostly just simple scene. Second, no human. Human is very difficult. It is very complicated and I don't think I'm ready for human character yet. Third, only one environment, again to simplify things. So by following rules number 2, my main character gonna be an inanimate object. I started looking for inspiration for my story around the internet, but I found nothing. And I decided to look around my house looking for things that could inspire me or potentially be the star of my animation. And then there they are, sitting on my parents' table. I'm not sure when my parents got them. All I know is that they have always been there, sitting together. They are probably older than me. I staring at them, thinking of all the story possibility I can come up with them. Then I think to myself, what if one of them die? I know it's very dark. I always love sad story, tragic, or at least have a bittersweet ending. Don't ask me why. Since I didn't need to design the character again, I need to think of how the environment gonna looks like. I wanted to have inspiration from my house too, so I look around again and try to remember how my house looks like when I'm little. Since I'm Chinese Indonesian, my house always have Chinese influenced furniture and decor. And one thing that always stand out to me is this table and this window. I decided that I want this table to be the main table for where the characters sit. I start the modeling process and I changed the design a little bit by adding a drawer just to make it look nicer. And of course, I also make the window. I add another props to make it more alive, like the photo frames, face, and a radio since they're gonna be a dance scene. And I know that I want flowers on the table that would symbolize their love, but to be honest with you guys, I'm not very familiar with flowers and their meaning. I do know that rose is the most common flower that symbolizes love, but I didn't want to use it because I think it's just too straightforward and also difficult to model. So I start searching for a flower that symbolizes forever love or things like that. And then I encounter a flower called Forget Me Not flower. Just as the name suggests, it symbolizes a true love and remembrance. So I think to myself, it's perfect. I saw some pictures where people keep it in vase, so I assume it is possible to keep indoor. But again, I'm not an expert, so excuse me if I'm wrong. I try to make the environment to look comfy and have old feeling, so I choose brown color as its main color for this set. And for the second environment, it's gonna have similar look to the first one, but more modern. It's gonna have the same table though, because even I still have it. But everything else is gonna be a newer furniture. I know I have made rules about one environment, but since it's a pretty simple change with the same setup, I will count this as one environment. I want to have a lonely or distant feeling with this setting, so the color I'm choosing gonna be more monotone grayish. The lighting for each set is not final in this step since I'm gonna tweak it for each shot too. But it is enough to tell what kind of feeling each environment gonna have and also for helping to previewing the model and material for later. While working on environment, I also start sculpting the character. I start with sculpting Grandpa first, and since they both have the same body shape, I will just use Grandpa as the base for Grandma later. After having the base model for Grandpa and Grandma, I start to plan the animation shot. With this, I can really think of how the story gonna be and how the character gonna move. And then I'm back to character creation again. After sculpting is done, I start with retopology, then unwrapping, texturing, and finally rigging. The character creation step is the same as other 3D character I have worked on. The rigging is very simple. Well, actually, now that I think about it, I don't even need to rig it. Because in the end, the character movement is very static. Well, back then, I was thinking maybe they could have at least some expression like smiling or sad face, and maybe they can move their head a little bit. But my boyfriend told me that it looks better if they just move like an actual figurine, just to make things look more real. And since the feelings is pretty much been conveyed enough without an actual expression, I follow his advice, and I'm not regretting it. At this point, I think the environment is 70 to 80% done. Since the character is finished, I start to refine the animation. For the last act, where grandma getting hit and gone, I was very struggling on how I want to show it. Then I decided to just do it in one frame, hoping it will create a shock effect. In here, I'm still using the same ball with the one that hit grandpa. Later on, I changed it to wooden cup toys, so it wouldn't be too repetitive and not to confuse if it's the same child again. The animation process didn't take a long time since it's very simple movement, but I was struggling with effect, especially the dust. For the curtain, I'm using simple deform for some shots that you could only see a little bit part of it. But for a whole shot like this one, I decided to use cloud simulation. But for dust particle, it is very complicated for me. I just don't get how to do it or how to make it look good. I tried a few times, but I just don't like it. That's when I finally encountered an add-ons called Dust Particle Plus by Creative Stream. It is very simple to use, and I didn't even need to simulate it since it's using geometry node. Also, it looks better than my crappy simulation. While refining the animation, I was also testing to render it in smaller sample to see how the movie gonna looks like at this point. And I didn't really like the same lighting setup for all this shot. I feel like it lacks emotion, so I changed some of it. The last shot is the one that have the biggest change. The first lightning setup looked very bland. I guess that was my first initial thought on how I want the shot to look like for this environment. But I just don't think it conveyed the feeling enough, especially for the shot where grandma and grandpa is reunion. I tried to move around the lightning, and at one point I was thinking, why not making it sunset? Usually, the golden hour is the best time setup for emotional feeling. And I was right. I finally found the lightning setup that I feel like is right for the last act. For the compositing, I didn't really do much either. I tried not to cheat as much as possible, to not make it overcomplicated. And finally, I arrived at rendering. I'm rendering at 2K, so yeah, it takes time, especially some of the shot I need to re-render it again to fix some problem that I only noticed after fully compile. I'm compiling the whole shot with DaVinci Resolve. I did some color editing for some shot, but nothing special. And finally, my first short animation is done. I'll say it takes a longer time to finish it than I thought. It's still not perfect in many ways, but I'm happy with it. Also, I already have some other shot idea for the future, but since it is 3D animation and I'm on my own while also having my full-time job, it will take some time. But I'll keep making some fan art too in the meantime. Oh, also, I'm putting my whole 3D scene in my Gumroad store where you guys can purchase it for $10. It will include most of the asset, table, the set, texture, lighting setup, and of course, grandpa and grandma. I will put the link in my description below. Finally, if I can at least make you guys feel sad at the end of my short animation, then I consider that's a success. So, thank you again for watching, and let me know what you guys think about my animation in the comment below. Thank you, and bye bye!